Part of the reason I think it's safe to say this is at least a wild card is because of how Trump has been talking about it. It's because it's been something that Trump has himself been so cagey and so palpably scared about talking about for so long that I think he knows the public really doesn't want to see this. And I'll show you what I mean. I'll show you what I mean here. I started with a simple yes or no question. Question: have you spoken to Vladimir Putin since your election? Yes or no? Answer: I can't tell you. I can't tell you. It's just inappropriate. Trump interview after the election with Time magazine. It's inappropriate? It's not appropriate to be for us to ask you if you've spoken to Putin, or it's not appropriate for you to say? That was December, about a month after the election. By that point, it was widely reported that Trump had taken calls from world leaders across the whole planet, like France and Israel and India, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, the UK, Ukraine, South Korea. Trump himself made a big deal of announcing that announcing before he was sworn in that he had spoken to President Xi Jinping of China. He said, quote, "The call was a very good one." So he's bragging about and letting it be known about and sort of effusing about all of his calls with all of these foreign leaders all over the world, including very controversial ones like the president of communist China. But when you ask him if he talked to Putin, he says that's inappropriate. He doesn't want to talk about it. But, you know, I said that was December. Maybe that was just something weird about being in the transition. Maybe once he took office, once he was officially president, he would find it more appropriate to issue some clarity on this issue. Let's ask him.
When are you going to be talking to Vladimir Putin?
Who?
That was Inauguration Day, January 20th. Are you going to be talking to Vladimir Putin? Who? Vladimir who? Talking to what? Me?
When are you going to be talking to Vladimir Putin?
Who?
Do you plan to meet President Putin, sir?
I'll be meeting with President Putin.
When do you plan?
I don't know. I can't. It's being set up.
When do you plan to speak to President Putin?
Could be very soon.
I don't know. I can't. It's being set up. Oh, that Vladimir Putin. Yeah. I can't. It's being set up. I'll be meeting with him. I can't say. It's being set up soon. Again, that was Inauguration Day. Again, not the most forthcoming answer, but a little closer to getting an answer, maybe.
Have you spoken to him?
I don't want to say.
That was only 3 days after the inauguration, 3 days later. Have you spoken to him? I don't want to say. Somebody getting so shy. Have you spoken to Vladimir Putin? I don't want to say. Why don't you want to say? Okay, how about another chance to clear it up?
Should I say on your call with Vladimir Putin?
Well, we'll be speaking. We are having discussions. Yes.
Ongoing? Already scheduled and ongoing?
Already talking. Yes.
So you've already spoken to Vladimir Putin?
I don't want to say that.
We will be speaking. We are already having discussions. So you've already spoken to Putin? I don't want to say that. I don't want to say? There's nothing that this man doesn't want to say. This man wants to say everything that has ever crossed his mind. He's the freest man in the world. But that I don't want to say. I can't say. It's not appropriate. That last clip takes us to the end of January. By the first week of this month, February, headline in the New York Post. Exclusive. Trump reveals he's spoken with Putin by phone. No more Vladimir who, no more I don't want to say, no more how dare you ask me such an inappropriate question. Trump reveals he has spoken with Putin by phone. How many times have they spoken by phone, you might be asking? Quote, when asked how many times the two leaders have spoken, Trump said, quote, I'd better not say.
Sir, can you tell us about your conversation with Vladimir Putin?
I don't want to do that.
You've been talking to Vladimir Putin. Are you trying to set up a meeting with him?
Well, I can't tell you what I'm talking about.
You can't? Aren't you the boss? We do not play a lot of video on this show of President Trump talking. You might have noticed that. We have this sort of mantra that we try to follow, which is watch what they do, not what they say. So we don't play a lot of tape of him talking. But every once in a while, I think it is worth the exception just to see that this is something that he talks about the way he talks about nothing else. This is something that he's palpably scared to say, or he feels constrained like he's not allowed to say. Why is he so scared of this one thing?
When are you going to be talking to Vladimir Putin?
Who?
Have you talked to President Putin?
No, I have not.
You haven't talked to President Putin
No, I have
since
not.
you've been
You mean,
elected?
no, well, I don't want to say that, but I haven't spoken to him recently.
So you've spoken to President Putin since you've
I
been
don't want
elected?
to say that. I don't want to say anything about that.
Have you spoken to him?
I don't want to say.
So you've already spoken to Vladimir Putin
I don't want to
since...
say that.
Are you trying to set up a meeting with him?
Well, I can't tell you what I'm talking about.
Can you tell us about your conversation with Vladimir Putin?
I don't want to do that.
See, he really doesn't want to say. He really, really, really doesn't want to say. He can't say. Who tells you what you can and can't say? Today, of course, we had the U.S. Secretary of State, the National Security Advisor, and whatever that real estate guy's job is. We had this high-level delegation from the United States meet in Saudi Arabia with the Russian government ahead of what is promised to be a Trump meeting with Vladimir Putin very soon. No Western leader has met with Vladimir Putin since he invaded Ukraine 3 years ago. But the United States is not only apparently taking Russia's side now, changing sides in that war now, we're essentially changing sides in the world. The United States is now apparently against Europe and our allies of the last 80 years and for Russia. While the president repeatedly and eerily and in a very out-of-character way tells the American people he is not allowed to discuss that relationship or his communications with that leader. The political reality of this administration is going to be shaped by whether or not the people who oppose him strongly enough and effectively enough. The political reality of this administration and this presidency will be determined by whether the people who voted for him are horrified enough by what they have wrought that they regret it and are willing to act differently and to speak out about their regret. The reality of this presidency and this administration will be determined in some part by whether or not Republican officials realize that their own survival as politicians depends not on sucking up to Trump, but by helping their constituents survive him. Strong evidence supporting all of those strikes against Trump so far, frankly. But this is one other thing to watch. If we really are now abandoning the free world and lining up instead with the world's dictatorships, and Trump is unwilling to even explain why, just watch. The American people are going to have some feelings about that, too. Just watch.